Hello, Boring Review Nation, Gabe,
Nick,
and we are here today to bring you another song reaction, fresh off the presses. Nick, right away, I look at the title, and we had talked about how political and you know, frankly speaking, brave the Beatles were, right? Because they took a stand. They were very anti-war in a time when it was not popular to be anti-war. And I look at this title
right away. He's like, "What?"
And it says the Beatles back in the USSR. And you know, at the time, like, think about that. They came at a time when the Cold War was still out there, man. I recently saw a movie with Tom Hanks, true story, about this lawyer. He actually he was like a tax lawyer, worked for a big firm, but there was a spy that was caught in the United States, and he was a Russian spy. And basically, when they caught him, they wanted to straight hang him.
Bridge of Spies?
Yeah, Bridge of Spies.
That's a great movie.
So he goes and defends him. Of course, he loses because all the evidence is stacked. And the guy's admitted to being like, I'm a spy. It is what it is. The guy's not being cooperative. And he pleads for the guy's life. He wins because he goes to the judge and appeals to the judge. And he's like, listen, one day, one of our guys may get caught over there, and we may need this guy. And it turns out he's the guy that they exchanged for Gary Francis Powers, the guy that went down in that U-2 plane that got shot over Russia. But the point is that it's such a polarizing thing, and the Cold War was such a polarizing thing. To even mention USSR in those days had to be super brave. And I tell people all the time, man, like, I had a student not too long ago who's you might remember her, little blonde girl. I won't say her name, but her mom was Russian, her dad was Ukrainian, and they're like, you know, we were the same country. Like, people, I have cousins and families over the lines. Like, it's the politicians and the bureaucrats that, you know, pull all this stuff. For the most part, the citizens are just like, I don't hate this person from another nation. And I mean, that's always been my thought. I forgot what line I heard it in, where it was like, listen, war is just old men sending a whole bunch of young men to go die. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's just the reality of it. When it boils down to it, it's old men sending young men to die because they want to stay in a position of power. It's that simple. And, you know, when I look at this, back in the USSR, I'm like, Beatles were big during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The USSR did not dissolve until 86. Yes, I know my history, people. You know what I mean? Like, listen, some people blame it on Chernobyl, but like, it would have been very controversial to release this song. So I'm so interested to listen to it. And you've made me, yes, I used to call them the Jingle Band, but you've made me a bigger and bigger fan of the Beatles. And like, most of the stuff you've given me lately, I'm like, okay, I'm really digging this. Except for Sgt. Pepper. Was it Sgt. Pepper? That was weird.
No, that was a good song. You don't like Yellow Submarine.
Oh, yeah, the Yellow Submarine. But it was on the Sgt. Pepper album or something like that. Okay.
I think. So this is from the White Album, and I think they might have been the first band to do like a White Album. Now every big band or big group has a White Album.
They have it in rap, bro. Yeah, the White and Black album.
But the funny thing, real quick about before we get into it, is that movie I keep telling you about. You gotta check it out. Yesterday, I think you listened to enough Beatles songs, you can check it out. When he's doing this song, they're like going through all his like songs, and we love these songs. Like, we're really interested about the back in the USSR. That hasn't been around forever. It's interesting that you would write a song about that. He's like, oh, yeah. He just stole from the Beatles. But anyways, we're going to check this out. If you like our reaction anyway, please don't forget to
like and subscribe.
And as always, this is his first time hearing this song.
I want you to give me some context afterwards. Like, did they actually go to the USSR to film?
I have no context for you. I never looked into it. Here we go. love the video. It's so cool.
This video is dope.
Back in the USSR. Well, the Green girls really knocked me out. Leave the West behind. And Moscow girls make me sing and shout. And Georgia's always on my mind. Oh, show me round the snow big mountains way down south. Take me to your daddy's farm. Let me hear your balanaikas ringing out. Come and keep your comrade warm. I'm back in the USSR. You don't know how lucky you are, boys. Back in the USSR. Oh, let me tell you, honey. Hey, I'm back. I'm back in the USSR. Hey, it's so good to be home. Yeah, back in the USSR.
So I definitely want some context. With that being said, bro, I love this song. It reminds me of like the Beach Boys. You know what I mean? More like
That's so funny. It reminded me of the Beach Boys too.
yeah, poppy, and I love this song. Man, Stones. When I tell you these guys got stones, let any American artist today or any artist today leaving the West behind. Like, I'm reading the lyrics, I'm like, wow, they saying what they're saying, man. You don't know how lucky you are to be in the USSR, really? And I need some context.
So it says right here, this is interesting. I did not know this about this song at all. It says written by Paul McCartney, credited to the Lennon McCartney songwriting duo. This is a parody of Chuck Berry's Back in the USA, Back in the USA,
okay.
and Beach Boys' California Girls. There you go. There's that Beach Boys influence.
Yeah.
The lyrics subvert Berry's patriotic sentiments about the United States as the narrator expresses relief upon returning home to the Soviet Union, formerly the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR. So, I don't know. McCartney's singing was based on Jerry Lee Lewis, who, while the bridge features a Beach
It sounded
Boys
just
style.
like Beach Boys. We did not know any about this. I could just hear that Beach Boys influence.
And Jerry Lee Lewis, if I'm not mistaken, he's the guy that was famous for goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire.
Wow. So this, again, I do know about, released 3 months after the Warsaw Pact's invasion of Czechoslovakia. Now, Warsaw are basically everyone that's not in NATO, you know what I mean? And China, Russia, all the, Eastern or, they've either got the socialist or communist, countries in there. And what does it say? Invasion of Czechoslovakia. The Beatles' sympathetic portrayal of the USSR prompted condemnation from the West, from both the left and the political right in 1976. Oh my God, backed by Twist and Shout, which, remember, we talked about, I didn't know that was their song. It was issued as a single to promote the compilation of the rock and roll music.
Peaked number 19 on the UK charts, 11 in Ireland. He performed the song in Moscow's Red Square. Elton John and Billy Joel have also released versions recording during concerts in Russia.
Right. And what's crazy is, here's the thing. Again, just knowing that, like I said, I give them credit. These guys have stones because they had to know it was a controversial position to take. And I always tell people, like, look, put politics and philosophies aside. You go to any country, whether you're on vacation or whatever, and people are just people, man. You know what I mean? It's the governments and the people in power that, for the most part, pull the strings and, push their ideologies on others. But listen, you got people, I'm watching reports in both countries that were desperately trying to get out of being drafted to go to that war. I don't want to go over there. Muhammad Ali, I remember, famous American boxer, one of my favorite fighters of all time and athletes of all time, took a stand in the Vietnam War. And he's like, look, I'm not going, to Vietnam, not because I'm a coward, but I'm not going, thousands of miles to Viet Cong, to fight some Viet Cong and kill, he said Chinese, which obviously, or Viet Cong, people who did nothing to me when I'm being oppressed right here at home. We got bigger problems to fight here at home. So, it's always dangerous to take that stance, but it also shows that, I think they see the full picture as in, listen, we can't just hate, all the people in the USSR. And at the time, we're not just talking about the Russians. We're talking about, wow, so all the countries, Czechoslovakia was there. Ukraine was in the USSR. That's where Chernobyl meltdown happened. I think Poland was still a part of the USSR. There were so many different countries there, so many different nationalities that prior to World War II weren't USSR. They were actually just independent countries. Like, you can't just hate everybody over there because they don't all have the same ideology. It's just like, look, there's a country where I live, there's a government that's in power. What do you want me to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's bridging that gap, and I think that's a lot of times we don't. That's what I love about the Olympics, Nick, and even the for the most part, most countries can put aside their petty differences and just go and celebrate and participate. Like, you really got to do something bad to get banned from the Olympics. Like, right now, Russia's actually banned from the World Cup, right? And I forget the name of the country that represents, like, the Russian football players, soccer players, but they won't be in the 2028. Is it 2028 or 2026? That's here in North America, World Cup. But, like, the sports, and that's why people laugh at sports, but for the most part, sports, and I think music, transcends all the nonsense and all the garbage and all the ideology and political stuff that a lot of people are just like, look, I just want to be entertained, and we're people just like they're people, and again, their government is accused of atrocities. Our governments aren't perfect either. They make their mistakes or whatever. That's not who we are. Unfortunately, they're the elected representatives that represent us or whatever, and you don't see too many bands or people that are willing to risk their fame. Again, they got backlash from both the left and the right here. And man, I am so much, like, as I keep going on, I just randomly, I was listening to Twist and Shout in the car the other day. I've become more and more a fan of the Beatles music, their later stuff. This is going to be an additive, and you're absolutely right. I love this song.
I knew you would. It's funny, too, because Revolution and Back in the USSR were always, like, none of my favorites of theirs. I liked them, but they're never my favorites. It's funny how you like those ones a whole lot. I like this song a lot more than I used to as a kid. Maybe it's just getting older. I was doing some more reading while you were talking, and he said that it was just meant to be a parody, but the original title was Backing the USSR. Can you imagine that?
Wow, that would be...
Not just backing.
That.
But yeah, he just said, he liked, the California girls, the Georgia girls, this kind of stuff. And so he said it's just a gag or whatever.
Right.
But he did have some kind of sympathy towards the USSR at the same time. So there's this or that. They said that he loved playing this one live no matter where he was at. So,
wow.
McCartney just didn't care.
He did it. I mean, him and Lennon, I think, are, and now I understand why they're so iconic, Nick. And obviously you're an educator as well, but I'm teaching history this year, and it's great. I love history. And you can't understate the ire and that they knew they were going to receive when they took the stances they did against the Vietnam War, for instance, which, Lennon was very opposed to, came out, was vocal about it. Like, that was, forget about un-American. That was like, they would probably want to have you deported because he wasn't American, right? And I remember he faced some stuff like that or whatever. He was accused of being a communist, this and that. And the same thing with McCartney to take this position and USSR during 1976. You're still in the middle of the Cold War. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's so, like, man, these guys have stones. They exude a courage that I think very few people do. You know what I mean? I wish more people did exude that courage and say, you know what, guys, like, people are people, man. You know what I mean? Like, people are people, and ultimately, let's try to pull all those silly differences. Thanks to the courage our leaders, and I mean not just our leaders here in America, but all world leaders should. You know what I mean? Like, let's stop the garbage and the ideology. We all live in one planet that we've got to share, so let's find a way past our differences and stop the nonsense. But of course, those old men that are in power don't think that way.
Well, I think you also got to remember, my last thought on this is 1968, so this is, around the hippie age, all that kind of stuff. At that time, a lot of people were challenging the political leaders, and there was that kind of that time where it was not like in vogue, but there was a lot of people questioning the groups, the people that were leading them. So, yes, it's got a lot of stones it takes, but also around that time, you had a lot of that going on. Let us know what your thoughts are on this song and our reaction. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to come back next time for another music reaction or comedy reaction. And until next time,
we know all things.